This information is brought to you by Charles Sturt University.
Okay. Welcome, guys. So I just want to. So I've got a copy of everyone's assignment, which is good, or the internal students at least. I've sent them to my marker today, so he will process them as long as it takes to take, I guess. 3 weeks is, so I've got 15 working days to get them at you. We'll hope to do it well before that point in time, but we'll just see how long it takes. So what we're doing last week was looking at counting. So counting makes it sound like something you do at preschool. If you want a fancy name, it's called combinatorics.
Oh, that's not counting.
Which is a fancy way of saying counting. So it makes it sound maybe a little more university, but it's still the same idea. So we looked at a few different concepts. I just want to cover them. So this was the multiplication. So do simple words. If you're counting one thing and another, that corresponds to multiplication. That's called the multiplication principle. So if you've got two different digits, first option's got 10 choices for the letter, next one's got 9 choices. The total choices are 10 times 9 equals 90. Now, I've put some caveats here, if independent. So long as the two characters aren't related to each other, then and just becomes multiplication. If they're connected in some regard, for example, if they have to be the same, then it doesn't work anymore.
Is that mutually?
No. So the other one is or equals plus, and this one is if mutually exclusive. So we've used other words for it. So mutually exclusive was disjoint, I think is the word we used before. So these words come from, we used them the same when we talked about sets a little while ago as well. So mutually exclusive, the same as disjoint. So if you've got one thing happening or another, you just add them together. And again, that's only as valid if they can't happen at the same time. So it's really more of an exclusive or, perhaps. That's one way of thinking of it. So one or the other, but not both at the same time. So that's the simple case. That's the special cases, which we'll use a lot of the time. We did a few things. We did ordering n things. So if you've got 3 things, how many different ways are there of putting the 3 things in a row? What's the answer? So if you've got a ABC, how many different ways of writing ABC? How many different orderings can you possibly have? 6. Now, how'd you work that out?
Permutation.
So the simple thing is using factorial, so n factorial. Now, factorial is useful if you want to order all of them. So order all of the n things or 3 things, whatever it might be. If you want to order just some, so say k from n. So if you want to pick 2, you've got A, B, C, it's 3 letters. You want to pick 2 of them, and you want to then put them into an order. How many different choices can you have from that? Well, you've got 3 choices for your first letter, 2 choices for your next letter, that's it. So it'll still be 6. In general, that's equal to NPK. And again, you can think of it directly. You don't actually have to use this NPK stuff. So you can go 3 choices for the first one, 2 for the second, multiplying into 6. There is a button in your calculator which can do it for you. So if you had 20 different letters to choose from, and you want to pick 10 and order them, then it's probably going to be easier using the button in your calculator than trying to work it out all directly otherwise. So it's useful to do either or as appropriate. And the last one is choosing. So choose k from n. In this case, the difference between the P and the C, this one is NCK, The difference between those two is they're different buttons in your calculator, because it's one thing. The difference is order. So in this first case, order makes a difference. In this last one, we don't care about order. Order does not matter. So that means we just care about the group we have rather than the listing they occur in. So if you're picking people for basketball teams, you just care about which 5 people on your team. You don't care what order they are or the numbering in the shirts. It's just which group of 5 you have at first glance. If you then want to worry about what different positions they have, that's when you start thinking about order again. But if you just care about the team, you just do it just a choosing, no order. So that's sort of the summary of what we talked about last lecture. So I just want to do a bunch of more examples of varying difficulty just to try to tease out some of these ideas. And having them in as a bit of a random order puts us on our feet and gets us to think more about it. So it's easy just to... I must have muted it.
Oh, thank you. No, helpful.
Okay, so it used to be the case, it's not anymore, and I'll explain the difference in a second. So it used to be the case that book numbers used to be 10 digits. So if you go to the back of a book, if you go back to an older book, it has an ISBN number which is 10 digits long. Why I mentioned this one, it just fits in like something else we mentioned last week. The first 9 digits of it are base 10, so 0 up to 9. The last digit is actually in base 11. So just as an example of where else you might do non-base 10 numbers coming up. So here's 2 example base ISBN numbers. So this last one here, nothing special about it. They just write in a certain way. But this one here, you can see the last digit, they use an X for the very last digit. That's because it's actually in base 11, and that corresponds to 10. So just how we use hexadecimal, we use A, B, C, D, E to make up the extra characters we need. In this case, they use X. Why X?
Because it's standard.
Because it's Roman numerals that...
Oh, okay, I thought you used X for everything.
No. Because it's Roman numerals for 10, I presume is the reason they picked it. So they picked this in 1970, which is not that long ago. But
that's so long ago.
Before we were born, probably. So, but still... So I mentioned this particular example first, just because it just uses a non-standard base for some digits. So effectively how it works is that last digit really is a check digit. So it's just a way, if someone types a random ISBN number in, they use a little algorithm to check if it's actually valid or not. And why they used base 11, base 11 for that last digit, because they can detect the 2 most common errors, either transposition, so just swapping 2 digits around, or just making a mistake. So you just, instead of writing a 2, you write down a 3 or whatever. So the 2 most common errors on writing any lot of strings. You can pick up both of them appropriately. So it's good for error detection that way. So it's slightly better than other choices. That's beyond what we're doing. I'm not going to even tell you what the algorithm is. So there's a way that they generate that last number. Some check process. So in reality, although it's 10 digits long, only the first 9 are really valid. The last one's always generated from the first 9. That's how I used to think about it. So it's really just a check digit. So how many possible ISBN 10-digit numbers were there or are there? Depends if we want to talk about it. So how many different options are there? Let's see how we think about doing it. Hopefully a lot. Hopefully there was a lot of books. So 1970 they were planning for lots of books, I presume, so hopefully a lot. How many different choices are there for the first digit? 10. How many for the next one? 10. So we keep going along, there's going to be lots of 10s here. So for the first 9 digits, we'll have 10 choices for each of them. So the last one, I guess, is the tricky case. What at the last digit, this check digit?
11? Does it got the X, or is that not what it is?
The answer is no.
Is it 2?
It's only going to be...
One
It's
value.
going to be 1. Now, if you wanted to go for both legitimate and illegitimate ISBN numbers, you'd do 11 there. That's right, because there's 11 different possible options for the digit. But we want valid ones. So valid ones, the check digit, the last one, really is generated by the first 9 of them. And so once you know the first 9, it's just automatic what that last one is. It's just there's some algorithms you generate it. Now, I haven't told you what it is. Wikipedia can tell you if you're curious. Look, it's common knowledge. But there really is just one choice for Spire in this circumstance. So,
ISBN.
you just do ISBN number, ISBN in Google, and it comes up first hit probably.
That's when I get my major.
What's that equal to? 10 to the power of 9, which is 1 billion. So there was 1 billion possible ISBN numbers.
There's more books than that.
Now, nowadays, for your text, if they write a textbook, if they have an Australian version and an international version and an e-book, that's 3 ISBN numbers they would need, for example. So they generate quite a few even for one book. It's not very well utilised. It's not so like all of these numbers. They leave lots of spaces. So a big publisher would get a big block of ISBN numbers, and then they would just fill them up slowly. And so there would be lots of empty space allocated to them just in case they're going to publish later on. So there's underutilisation happening. So they decided to move away from ISBN 10. The reason is because barcodes use 13 digits. And so they just decided to make them 13 digits just to match up to the barcode system. And so the books you would buy now would have 13 digits at the back. How they did that was just by adding, not very smart, they just added 978 at the beginning. That's all they did. That's the only difference. So nothing brilliant there. So apart from adding 978, nowadays they have been a little bit more generous.
What'd you do?
It was Paul.
I don't know what I did, sorry. So nowadays, they've realised that they might need a little bit more room for books, so they've allowed that the first 3 digits can either be 978 or 979, and that's the only 2 choices currently available. The reason for that is because this is barcode you use for everything else as well. So they can't have books occupying all the barcodes possible. You need it for Special K and cornflakes as well as everything else. So 978, 979, they're the first 2 and they're used for books. The other 9 digits are pretty much the same sort of thing. And the last digit, again, is a check digit. This time, because they want to make it match the barcodes, they can't use 11 digits, they have to revert back to base 10. It's not as good checking system that way. It doesn't quite detect as many errors as the other one, but it's just going to be consistent with all the barcodes that we have everywhere else. So how many possible, at the moment, this is the current specifications, how many possible ISBN 13 numbers are there?
2 billion.
I'd say 2 billion.
Okay, 2 billion. How did you get the 2 billion?
Because it's double.
8 or 9. 2 of them.
Yeah, so there's pretty much, so the first 2 digits, you have no choice on ever. So there's 1 choice each, really. So 1 times by 1. I'm going to think of that way. In reality, I would just do the first 3 digits all in one go. For the first 3 digits, there really is just the 2 choices. That's it. For the next 9, there's exactly as before, 10 to the 9 choices. And for the check digit, there's just 1 choice. It's just forced by an algorithm for checking purposes.
2 times 10 to the power of 9.
Yep. So the answer is a lot of people said just 2 billion choices. So at the moment, although they've gone to a new system, they're not really increasing the how many things they can handle.
Well, they are.
Hmm?
They just doubled it.
I've doubled it. That's fine.
They're not really increasing.
Okay, not by much. Not a
Only by like 100%. No, it's not.
So often when they readjust, they do it by multiple magnitudes of order. This is just only multiply by 2. That's still a lot of books they can put in there, of course. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so just my kids have been watching some stupid reality TV program. This is a makeshift on it, but they pick all these teams. I don't know what it is. Total Drama Island. You guys hopefully are way too old for it. But anyway,
Survivor, and it's just as annoying.
oh no, it's a parody of things like that. But anyway, so in this particular one I made up, there are two teams. Say the red team has 4 people on it, blue team has 6 people on it, and a person from a red team gets to reorganise the teams any way they say fit to make them 5 each. And now in these games, like in these things like Survivor, etc., the idea is you need to have it's all about cunning and about trying to stack the numbers. And so you want to make sure make sure your team of 5 has more red people in it than blue people, just so the next vote you get not so likely to get voted out. I guess that's the idea. How many different ways are there of doing that? So, think of the big picture first, and then we'll analyse it. So you go, what are the different scenarios, how many different ways are they doing it? So, what option 1 is how many people are going to, so in this team, first team that the person's going to pick, that the person's contestant's going to be in, how many red people can there be for it to work?
3.
So you can have 3 reds,
4.
3 reds, 2 blue, and the other option is
4 reds is 1 blue.
Yep. And that's it really. So, and they're mutually exclusive, so they clearly don't overlap with each other. So they're independent of each other. So they're mutually exclusive of each other. And so for the first case, how many different ways are there of doing that? Well, you've got 4 people you had before, and you want to choose 3 of them. So I'm choosing 3 of the red people. So 3 from the 4 before. Now, I don't care what order it is, it's just making up a team. Like, there really is no order to it. That's why I'm using choosing rather than permutation. That's a combination. And then I've got to choose some blue guys. So from my 6 blue people, I'm picking 2 of them. Now, should I multiply or add that? So these are 2 numbers. So at the end of the day, I'm going to pull up my calculator in a second and work out some numerical values for them. So that one there is 4. That one there is 21. I'm using calculator is good enough for it. So you get 2 numbers. Are we going to multiply or add those 2 numbers together?
Multiply.
Why?
Because you've got your C as both of them the C. So you've got to, if you add them, you've only got the 25. But there's a set number of cases for each one to add up. So if you're going to choose 4, it doesn't mean it's going to be the same 2 that. Oh, sorry. Once you choose 3, it doesn't mean the same 2 is going to join the same 3 each time. So it's got to go.
Okay. So let's try and make it simple. I mean, I'm not saying if the simple description is the difference between a plus or a multiplication really is just the difference between and or. That's all it comes down to. So I mean, I'm not. So let's make it simple. Is it? Do you want and these 2 things or all of them? So do you want 3 red people and 2 blue? Or you want 3 red people or 2 blue? That's really what the question boils down to.
But the red that's choosing the team's on the team every time. Wouldn't that change the results too?
It just means
You don't have
one
to-
red.
Okay, so we need to fix it up. Yep. Yep.
So are you choosing 2 out of the 6 for the blues as well?
So choosing 2 from 6, yep.
Yeah, because according to the calculator, that's 15. Why?
Cannot work out. So, sorry, yep, thank you. For some reason I was going up 1 rather than down 1. So I did 7, choose 2, my mistake. So thank you very much.
Random.
No, that's not a random thought, that's fixing me up. Thank you. So we want both at the same time, and I'll get back to that, the other issue we've got at the moment. We'll just answer the one we have in our front and then we'll fix up the mistake. Okay, so we want and both of them, so that means and. Then we want to do the same for the other option. So we've got, if we just carry it as, and we've got our disposal, so I want to pick all of the red people that we possibly can, and multiply it by picking one blue person to make up the rest of the team. So 4 choose 4 is 1. 6 choose 1 is 6. So again, we want to add both of them at the same time, so one and the other. It's multiplication. So after you multiply them up, you get 4 15 is 60. 1 6 is 6. So 60 and 6 are the two numbers now. Do we want to multiply them or add them? Add. So we want the first option or the second one. That's why we're adding them together. So if I haven't made any further mistakes, it should be 66. And as Jacob said, I make mistakes just like everyone else does. So please correct me if I make a mistake. So thank you. Now I made another one, which I'm getting back to. So is everyone okay at first glance? That's okay. So the problem with that option is that all 6 of those cases, the red person is on the team of the majority, so it's okay. But sometimes, some of those 60 cases, that red person's making the other team okay, but the team that they're in not okay, which is what you alluded to. So we need to fix that up.
On that second one as well, you've got 6 different ways to reorganise the teams, but you're actually not changing the blue team 6 times because it's the same guys that are just moving around in the same group. If you know what I mean? Because if the 4 red guys are still on the red team,
You still got to pick. You basically, essentially, you've got to pick one of the blue guys to make up the numbers, right? That's how it comes.
to even them out.
Yep, to even them out. So once you pick the one blue guy, the other 5 are just by themselves. That's right. That's where it comes from. So there are some extra complications, as you can see from time. So this is a problem. So let's fix that up. So pretty much what you're going to have to do is we need our special person. Let's give this person a name. What name would you give the person who's choosing the teams?
Hubert.
Hubert, okay.
Hubert Adams. Hubert Adams.
Okay, so options, we've still got 2 options. So Hubert's got to pick a team that he's going to be in. So Hubert's in the team. So he's one of those red people. So from the 3 remaining, so then he's got to pick 2 other red people to make up the majority, and 2 blue. That's one choice. The other option, Hubert's got to pick himself the three other red team members and 1 blue to make up the number. So he's going to make sure he wants to be in the team to be in the majority, otherwise there's no real purpose doing it. So I mean, the first one, 6 answered the question I had at the top, I guess. But this is the one that really would make more sense to be asking. So in the first case, Hubert's only got one way of picking himself. That's just a 1 multiplied by 1. So you would leave that if you wanted to. How many ways are there of getting those 2 red people? How many other ways of choosing these 2 other red people?
3 choose 2.
Okay, so we've got 3 red people not other than Hubert to choose from. So we've got 3 people to pick from. So we can't pick Hubert again. And we want to choose 2 of them to make up the red majority. And like before, out of the 6 blue people, we want to choose 2 of them to make up the numbers. On the other hand, we've got the second case, so we're going to do that plus next one. So we've got Hubert's locked in, and from the 3 remaining red people, we want to choose all 3 of them, and we want to multiply that by picking one of the blue guys to join the team to make up the numbers. Let's see what which one adds up to this time. So 3 choose 2. So what is 3 choose 2 equal to?
3.
Okay, so now the way Jacob did at the back is using a calculator. Can everyone just make sure you can pull out your calculator and work out how to do that right now? I mean, you can, obviously. Good. And why I ask is because if you don't, this is a good time to ask to make sure you get the help. So you need to find that button in your calculator, and you type in 3, find the NCR button, that's probably what it's called, and then 2 and equals. Hopefully gives the answer. Can everyone see it there?
One day I didn't bring my calculator to math class. Works every single one.
Sometimes on your phones, if you turn your phone sideways, you get scientific calculator, and you can sort of make up with that.
Well, yeah.
If you have a phone.
I'm totally going to go into the exam.
Now that doesn't, as you worked out, that's not helpful for practicing for the exam.
But it is helpful for real life.
Yes.
And what is the exam preparing you for?
Not real life.
Yeah,
It's not.
phone.
At all.
Next exams.
Really obscure job.
Really obscure job, yeah. No calculators allowed.
What are exams for? They're to see what you understand. That's what the goal is. So the subjects as a whole are to prepare you for your jobs or other subjects, depends on the context. But a key purpose of an exam is to make sure that you know the stuff personally, rather than the person who's been tutoring you whole through session or whatever it might be. Now, that makes them a little inauthentic at times, because in a real job, if you don't know stuff, you just ask the person next to you. You really would do that.
Well, you know,
Now, if you ask that all the time, they'll fire you. But if you ask in a sensible times, or Google, or whatever it might be, and you can do it quickly, that's fine, of course.
Google website.
But if all you're doing, if you just spend a whole day Googling and because you don't know anything, then you're not going to keep your job for very long. And so part of the idea is, if you've got a uni degree, they have to say, yes, you have learned some stuff over the time period, and been able to verify it for exams. So that makes it slightly inauthentic, which you're valid criticism for, but it's a trade-off. Just trying to defend exams. Anyway, so 3 choose 2, 6 necessary evil, you can put it that way. 6 choose 2 is equal to, same as 4, 15. So if 3 15s are equal to 45. Then the bottom ones, 3 choose 3, 1. 6 choose 1. 1 times 6. Hopefully you can do that in your head. 6. So add them up, you get 51. So although there's 66 groups, 66 ways of picking a majority, Hubert would only really be interested in 51 of them, because the other there's 15 options wouldn't be very beneficial to him. So he would do it. So okay. So what's the moral? What I'm trying to show here is that you can use combinations, just choosing groups, and you need to have an appropriate mix of multiplication and pluses. So you need to break it up into all the different options you have, and within each option, work at number of options and add them up, and you just do multiplication with the different choices you have.
Whoa, Sanjay, whoa. Bloody Star Wars here.
Okay. So let's do a different one. So Hubert, we're not worrying about Hubert at this point in time, so we're just worrying about the team. So Hubert has to pick the teams. He's not going to try to make himself in an advantage at this point in time. How many different ways are there so that blue is the majority in both teams? So again, we had 10 people all up, 6 blues, 4 reds. Before we answer that question, just to see some of the problems that we might do, let's just do a second problem. That's what the hint refers to. So here we've got 2 red. So we've got 2 red people, 2 blue people. So just 4 people all up. How many? We want to split these guys into 2 groups of 2 people each. How many different ways are there of doing that? Let's just list them all. It's not that big, so we probably can do them all. So one option is we could have 2 reds and 2 blues, just like I've written it down. That's one way. So you can have red, blue, let's give numbers to them all. So red 1, blue 1, red 2, blue 2. What other options are there? Well, we have the first red guy with the second blue guy. That's different. What else might we be tempted to do? We might be tempted to say, well, let's put the B1, B2 and R1, R2. Although it's tempting to write that down, we shouldn't. Why?
Because the order shouldn't matter.
Okay, so really you're splitting up to two teams. There really is it is two different teams. There is no team one or something like.
Red team, blue team.
So, in this case, the bottom and top line really are the same splitting up. You really are just splitting up to two groups. If the first group's all red, or the second group's all red, they're the same team. Like you can see that and that are exactly the same. So there really is no extra choice in that circumstance. So therefore we can't consider that one. So any other choices you can think of?
Not really.
That's it. Really is that it. So let's think about how you would do it without just listing all the order down. Let's think how we would do it otherwise, just to see where the problems might arise. So you're going, well, out of our three options we've got here, how many of them, how many ways to divide in two groups of one each? So, okay, well that's, yeah. So let's go back to our problem at the top of the page. So we've got blue team and majority in both teams. So for that to happen, how many ways are there of doing that? So we had 6 blue guys, 4 red. What's the basic pattern we need to get blue majority in both?
You need 3 blue guys on each.
So you need 3 blue guys in each, effectively. You need 2 red, 3 blue. First team, 2 red, 3 blue in the other one. Okay. I'll think hard about this one. So a naive approach would be to say, I'll pick from my 4 red guys, I'll choose 2 of them, and from my 6 blue guys, I'll pick 3 of them. That picks the first group. If you pick the first group, if you've been picked for the first group, you're in. If you haven't been picked for the first group, you're in the second group, and that's it. So a naive approach would be that's the answer. What's the problem with that?
Not enough options. There's more.
Okay, let's go back to say... So let's assume we did the same sort of approach up this top example. The top example, we would basically want to have 1 red, what do we say? 1 blue. That's what. Let's go to this case. So how many ways in the very first example of having 1 red, 1 blue in each group? So a naive approach would be, I want to pick, from my 2 red people, I want to pick 1 of them. So 2, choose 1. And I want to multiply that one by 2, choose 1. So 2, choose 1. So 2 different blue options for it. So a naive approach would be that. What is 2, choose 1, by the way? 2. So it's 2 times 2 gives you 4. So at first glance, a 1 red and 1 blue, a naive approach would give you 4 different cases. How many of them are there really? Well, that one that's got 1 red, 1 blue in each team. That one also works, 1 red, 1 blue in each team, but that's it. So the naive approach really gives you 4, but in reality there's 2. So you can see there's something wrong with our logic. How can we fix it up? What's the problem here? Well, when we're doing this approach, when we think of these 4 different cases here, they're the 4 different ways of getting 1 red, 1 blue guy. The 4 options are red 1, blue 1, it's one option. Another case is red 1, blue 2. That's another option. Another one is red 2, blue 2. And the last one is red 2, blue 1. So they're the 4 different ways of getting that particular team. And as you can see, what we end up doing is that the 1 and 3 options are actually make the same splitting up of the teams. So by doing that naive approach, what we really are doing is counting everything twice. So although we can do the naive approach first, you go, oh, hold on a sec, we're just counting them way too many times. How many times do we really want to count them? Just once would be ideal. And so we need to fix that number up. So how can we fix it up? Divide by 2. So in general, when you do counting, sometimes when you count things one approach, you realise that you count them way too many times, and you can divide by the number of times you count them minutes extra. We'll see some other examples of that in a second. So I come back to explain how that works in this case. Basically, you want to pick 2 red guys, 3 blue guys. So when you pick that, you're implying the people that get not picked. But when you're coming around to it again, you end up choosing the other teams later on. So you really are choosing the everything twice because there's 2 teams in this case. That's a harder concept. So let me try it. So it really comes down to this example. If you're just picking 1 red, 1 blue, you can see there's the 4 options. But when you pick the red 1, blue 1, the other choice really is automatically chosen for you as well. So you're really getting the 2 options for 1. That's why we got the double counting. What's the numerical value for this, by the way? So calculator exercise, really. So 4 choose 2 is equal to 6. And 6 choose 3. I don't know why I'm writing B all the time. 6 choose 3.
20.
Yep. And we want to divide that by 2.
It's like 60.
So 60. So there's 60 different ways of doing that. So the really hard sort of counting exercises like this is where you just quickly look at the answer and you overcount or undercount some options. So there's just some different predicaments you count twice or 3 times or whatever it might be. So in this case, we count every single thing twice. And so just divide by 2 to fix that. And you just have to be thoughtful about when those sort of things arise. And you'll often get it in forming teams like this when you just want to talk about the splitting up in the 2 groups, because you've got to remember we're looking at both groups together. So you only care about the first guy. So you go, I only want to pick just 5 people, I don't care who else is, and just these 5 people are my IT team, then that's the right answer. But when you're looking at both together, that's where it has an impact. Okay. Okay, so here we're taking a photo of a family. So there's a family of 5 consisting of mum, dad, and 4 kids. So
Unless the kids is a ghost. Oh.
The mum's
a ghost.
okay, so family of 6. Thank you. I can't count. I can't add, obviously. 6 family of 6, 4 kids, mum and a dad, and I want to be lined up in a straight line for a photo, for a family portrait sort of thing. How many different ways are there of lining up the 6 family members so that mum and dad are standing next to each other? So mum plus dad together. So someone reckons 48. I'll write it down. Any ideas how to do that?
For mum and dad, there's 2 options.
Okay, so there's two options for the order of mum and dad. So it can either be mum on the right or dad on the right. Otherwise, dad's right next to mum. So if you want to think about it, there's two factorial ways of ordering that group of size 2. We can just think there's just two options, the same thing. And we also want to line the rest of them, line them up somehow or other. How do we do that? Well, the way of thinking about it is we're going to basically, what are we trying to line up? We've got a clump, mum and dad. They really are a unit. And then we've got the kids. Each of them unit by itself. So really what we've down to is 5 different groups. That's what really got down to. So the first group is mum and dad. We're not separating them at all. So that's just one group, and all the kids are by themselves. And so we want to order those 5 different groups. How many different ways of ordering 5 different groups? So someone's whispering, it's 5 factorial. Order the 5 groups. So if you multiply those two together, what do you get? So what's 5 factorial? I mean, that's the main thing.
5 times 4.
So I'd use your calculator rather than trying to do 5, 4, 5.
240.
So you get 2 times by 120, or as you say correctly, 240. Yeah, someone said 48. The reason why that's not incorrect is because that always assumes mum and dad at the beginning, where they could be in the middle or at the end as well. That's why you multiply the 5 options, 5 multiplication options for their location as well. So 240 different ways of doing it. Okay. The 2 youngest kids apparently always fight. Were you guys in the family like that at all?
Yes.
Okay, one person's brave enough to admit it.
Yeah.
The oldest kids fight.
The oldest kids fight on your So 2 youngest kids fight in this particular one. How many ways are there to line up the family so that mum and dad are still next to each other, but the 2 youngest kids are separate from each other? Okay.
Take one out of the picture.
So just take a photo of only apparently a 5'5".
Yeah. And then Photoshop that kid in later, post production.
You're very pragmatic. I do appreciate that. But so this is a bit more theory as an aside.
Yeah.
We can talk about.
I like Bart Simpson. I love The Simpsons. So I stole something.
Sometimes we want to consider the idea of not really. So we've done this in terms of sets. So there's a relationship to sets here. And so one way to consider is to consider the opposite of something happening. And so we've seen that the size of the complement of set. So if A is a set, the complement will put a dash there and a line at the top, depending on how you want to write it. So the size of the complement of a set is equal to the size of the universal set minus the size of A. Now, I mentioned that really quickly, in like week 1, but it seems believable, right? So if you've got 10 different ways of possibly doing something, 4 of them are for A, 6 of them would be for not A happening. It makes sense, you just do 10 minus 4, so that's all it's really trying to say. So one way of trying to work at the size of anything is, or to count the size of something happening, is to count how many different ways are there you could possibly have it in total, work at the number of ways that not happening is taking the difference. That's called taking the complementary event, the complementary circumstance. Complement just means opposite, really. So the size of not A equals the grand total minus the size of A. or when I say size, it's the number of ways of getting A. So the number of ways of not getting A is equal to the total number minus the number of ways of getting A, effectively. So let's see what that boils down in this particular case. Sorry, let's write it down. So you can see that if you just look at that slide again, you can see the and or not cropping up again. So there's basic operations of set theory or logic or Boolean algebra really cropping up again here. But, they're sort of fundamental operations. Okay. So we had 240 ways, if I recall correctly, for part 1. So pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to split these 240 into 2 different cases. Really, so it's either one or the other. One case is the naughty kids together. So kid 3 and 4 are together. That's one choice. The other choice is they are not together. So does that make sense? So they're together, they're not, one or the other. So clearly they're opposites in that sense. And so those 240 would be split up into those 2 options. So what I really want to know is I really want to know the bottom number. I really want to know how many of the times of that 240 where the 2 kids are not together. They're the ones that the photo is going to be hopefully a little bit more better taken.
I don't know, it could be more exciting.
That could be jumping across everyone.
Are you just speaking from experience, Dave?
I am speaking, yeah. I've had the sister's head is in the ground as that pile drive just boom.
So let's work out the number at the top here. We'll work out X, that's the number of ways of getting K3 and the number of the 2 youngest kids together and mum and dad together. So pretty much our answer we want is 240 minus X. That's what we're trying to go for. That's what we're hoping it to be. So really to come down to, we need to work out what X is first, of course. So X is number of ways of getting, so mum and dad together and the 2 kids together, 2 young kids together. So how many different ways are there of doing that? Similar sorts of idea as before. So how many different ways of putting the mum and dad together? 2. So there's the 2 or 2 factorial ways of putting the mum and dad. So either mum, dad, mum first, dad first. If you're putting the two young kids together, how many different ways of doing that? 2. So now we've got them all together. Now we want to order all the different groups we have. How many groups do we have this time? So mum and dad are one group. The 2 old kids, at least old enough to be by themselves, so to speak. But the 2 young kids have to be together. So how many different groups do we have now? 4 of them. We want to order them in any sort of ordering, and all's acceptable now. So there's going to be 4 factorial ways of ordering those kids around. And so 2 times 2 times 4 factorial gives you 96. 96, thanks. So there's 96 ways of that happening. So therefore, back to the original question, how many ways can we make sure that we take a photo with mum and dad together and the 2 young kids separate?
144.
So the number of ways, I'll just say that rather than writing it again. It's going to be the 240 way all up, that's the size of the universal set, minus the number of ways what we don't want to happen. They want to subtract off the 96 cases we don't actually want to happen. They're the cases where we're going to have a definite right on our hand. The remaining cases, the 144 cases might also be problematic, as you're saying, but probably less so because they're at least not right next to each other. Does that make sense, everybody? So we're using the idea of not. That's really what it comes down to. So the number of ways of counting some things, sometimes it's easier to count the opposite. And to get back to the original number we really want, we just work at the total number we're considering, just minus the number of cases that we want to exclude. So we want to exclude the 96 cases, they're the bad ones. Everything else is, well, hopefully okay in this case. How we have a break for 5 minutes words that to work out how many 4 different letter words we can make from it. So I had some up on the screen a second ago. There's some you prefer, so let's pick a 4-letter word that you guys really like.
All.
I don't like that word.
Okay, we're stuck with it. Yeah. Could be anything at all. How many different ways are there of making a 4-letter word? So a 4-letter word just means picking 4 of the letters, and a word really requires an order. You have to write them on a page, so there's an order.
Are we just Shakespeareing it at this point? Pretty much. Like, just put them all together, see what happens.
So we're being more like monkeys on a typewriter. We don't care about the meaning of the word, if it really is one or not.
So
We'll write
basically would be
Shakespeare
Dave.
eventually.
So some of those options might give a sensible word. Lots of them probably don't. So how many different ways are there of doing it? How many different ways of basically ordering those 4 letters?
24.
So it's 4 factorial, which is someone says 24. So let's pick another one. Let's pick dead. That's someone else's example from before.
Oh. Really? Like alive?
Dead.
We're still alive.
The next word is now.
So we'll do alive.
Oh. That's a real death.
With a zombie.
So we'll do dead. How many different ways are there of ordering dead?
There's 4.
No? But you're going to divide it by
Okay.
I thought it was legitimate. Well, that's true. There's 2 Ds.
So at first glance you think, it's the same as before, is it? It's just 4 letters. I got all of those 4 letters. Why? That's a naive approach and it's incorrect, unfortunately. Because there's a double up. There's 2 Ds there.
Some English words have 2 Ds in them, next to each other.
Correct.
But it doesn't matter which D is which what.
Oh, yes.
So, for example, when you write down 4 factorial, it really assumes that the 2 Ds are distinct from each other. You really can call one D1 and D2.
Drug enforcement agents.
So, those 2 different letter combinations, if you want to count them as, if you're saying 4 factorial, both of those 2 combinations are being considered different. Should we consider them differently?
No.
No, because we can't tell the T's apart. I mean, there really is no. You don't really have a D1 and D2. They are different. They are just the same. They really are
The same T.
the same D. So we need to fix that up with double counting things. So like before, if we double count, we need to get rid of the double counting. So how many times are we double counting here?
1.
So every time, so pretty much we can reorder the bunch of D's in the block as many times as we want to, and it still gives you the same thing. So we've got to divide here by the number of ways of ordering those 2 D's, which is 2 times. So there's just 2 D's, there's 2 ways of ordering that. So picking another one, before I do a live. So something with 3 letters in it.
Dad.
Just getting rid of the E.
Okay, so
Could be my dad.
so I used to misspelling that. I hope no one ever does, but dad with an extra D on the end. How many different ways are there of writing the letters and making words from that particular letter combination? Well, at first glance you think, oh, there's 4 factorial ways of doing that. But hold on a sec. There's 3 Ds that are all the same, and so I've done lots of double counting here.
Height, width, and depth.
And so I've got to divide by the number of ways I can order those Ds. So I'm going to get rid of all that extra counting I've got. So what's 4 factorial divided by 3 factorial actually equal to? 4. And as a matter of fact, you might find it easier to count directly rather than this approach. You go, well, the A has to be at the beginning, second place, third place, or last place. There's 4 choices for the A, that's it. And so the other way of thinking about it is I've got 4 locations for the A, I want to choose 4 of them. So the other way of thinking of it is I've got 4 places, I'll choose 1 for the A. So it's also equal to 4 choose A. So you can think of it as a combination if you want it that way. Or you can just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope you can get that far okay as well. So, but just showing you different ways of trying to handling overcounting and ways of doing it. And again, you can just see some problems with this sort of stuff. What about the word alive? We want to pick a word of length just 4, and evil is one I can think of. It's a real word, but there's others that we want to think of all
Like
possible.
live. Or live. You think of evil, you're like, oh, evil.
Okay, so there's other alive as well, and you can think of more, I guess. So veil, etc. But how many different options are there? Not worrying about actually ones that actually have true English meaning or not. So I want to pick 4 of the. I want to have a word of just length 4. Oh, there's 5 letters to pick from, as you can see here.
5 people. 5 people.
So 5 P4. Yep, that's what I'm looking at. So I've got 5 choices for my first letter, 4 for my next, 3 for the next, and 2 choices for the last letter. And the lucky last letter doesn't get included in my word. And if you multiply those together, you get 120, right? So 5P4 is the quickest way of doing any calculator. Give me a longer word with doubles in it. Or triples.
Scissors.
Lots of S's in it. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to work out the number of possible words of length 4 you can generate from this. So the problem is here's the double is there's a repetition of letters. Which letters are repeated?
S.
S. S is repeated a lot, as you can see.
I think half the word.
So we got to
Like half the word.
whenever there's a repetition, you can see that we've had to divide by how many times we've actually used that letter. So what you're dividing by depends on how many times that letter's been used. So I'm really going to have to split it up into different cases. So I'm going to have a few cases here. So the cases is how many times the letter S gets mentioned effectively. So this is the number of S's. So either you're going to have, well, none of them, 1, 2, 3, or 4. We've got lots of options here. And all those are possible. So let's do each in turn. So in the first case, if you have no S's at all, how many different words can we have? We've only got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 4 letters left to pick from, essentially then. So how many different ways of getting words from the rest of it? Just say it out loud. So it's 4 factorial, which is 24. That's right. So just like the Paul example, effectively.
Yeah. The best example.
And what about if you pick one S? If you want to pick one S, you've got it basically including S. S is there already. How would you do the rest of it? So a few different ways to think about it. I don't know, this is the first one that comes to my mind. I might think of a different way. I'm picking S, so there's one way of picking the S because that's guaranteed. I've then got to pick a few more letters. So from my 4 other letters, I've got to pick 3 of them to make up my word of length 4. So I'm just choosing the letters I want for the moment. I'm not ordering them yet. So I've got my selection of letters, and then I need to order it. How many different ways are there of ordering these 4 letters now I've picked them? So there's 4 different factorial different ways of ordering those letters around, essentially. and then multiply all that out and see what answer you get. So 96, I think. That's not the only way of doing it, just to think through. So that's the first thing. So I basically fill all my letters up and then I'll put them in some sort of order. That's where I come for it. What about the next one? If you've got two S's. Yep. So I've got to pick the two letters that I want to be included with the two S's. And then you can order them. How many different ways of ordering those letters now? Okay, so that's not right at the moment, so you realise there's a correction required. Yep. You have to divide it by something. Yeah, so we've still got the two S's there that can be, if you swap them around, it doesn't make any difference at all. So you've got to get rid of that overcounting present. So that would be 48. What about the three S's? Same sort of idea. I pick my three S's. I have to choose the one other letter they're going to put with them, and I've got to order them. So one way, if I see the same pattern, I can just go, well, there's three S's and one other letter. I just got to pick the four different. I've got four different possible locations that last letter can be. So you can just write it as multiply by 4. That would work. Or using the pattern, I order all of them and divide by the number of ways I can mix up the three S's without really changing anything. So same thing. And that's equal to 16, I hope. And the bottom case, similar sort of thing. So I've got to pick the S's, and I'll write it down. And then how many other letters do I need to pick? None of them. So there really is no other choice really present. So I've picked the four letter S's. How many different ways? So if you want to write it all the way down, this is completely redundant. So it's 4 choose 0 to match the pattern, which is 1. Then I've got to order them, but divide by the number of extra ordering them. And it all just becomes 1. Now, you could just get that straight away by thinking, they're just 4 S's. That's it. That's the only way I can do it. And leave it at that. So if you add up all those numbers, you can work out the number of ways. That is equal to... Law. 185, okay. Oh, because I've got to pick the S's. There's only one way. So I've got to pick the S's first. I mean, you don't have to. You could just leave them one multiply out. Of course, it doesn't make any difference. But I've just put it in as say I have to pick the S's first. One way of doing that because I really restricted it down. Pick the other letters, then I have to order them. That was the way I said it out loud. So so this is one particular example. How could you apply it elsewhere? So sometimes when you're ordering things, you can just use a factorial or a permutation directly, like Paul and Liber. When you start getting repeated letters, you need to make sure you divide by the number of ways you're repeating, just to get the right count again. So you can see I did that for the S's, just divided by the number of ways of the letters being repeated, just to fix it all up. So things get harder, like that last case, when you have to split up into all the different options present. When you can't handle everything in one go, but you really have to consider lots of different separate cases. And you don't do that unless you have to, because you can see that takes a lot longer to write down. But in an example, so like in your assignment 2, so if you go to assignment 2, the online one, have anyone looked at that yet? I'm being optimistic, I'm sure, but So you're going to just put a sign one in. So if you look at that, just go and have a look, just see what's there, just so you can see what you're supposed to have to do. It's due for quite some time down the track.
Nice.
But you can see at least what's being expected. And so for some of those questions, you might see it the quick way straight away. You go, oh, yeah, I can see the quick way. But maybe you can't, maybe you have to do a long way else different cases, even when it may not be that necessary. But at the end of the day, you want to get the right answer, right? So even if you do it the long way, that's okay. So there's some different choices. So really just looking at overcounting concept again.
Alright.
Okay, so we want to sit people at a table, this one. Now, if you've seen this before, you know the answer. Otherwise, you'll learn something new. I want to sit 3 people around the table. Let's give them names. Let's give them really simple names, A, B, C. I could be more creative if you wish, but A, B, C.
Unique.
Annabelle, Brian, and Chris, I don't know. But, so 3 people, we've got a list, put them around the table. Four. Big coincidence. So you might go, let's go, A, B, C is one way around the table. I'll write down all the different options. So how many different ways are there of ordering A, B, and C? How many different orderings are possible? 6. Okay, so let's write down the 6 different options. So another one is A, B, C, that's a different ordering. And the last one is B, C, A. That's 3 different possibilities. 3 different orderings. Another one is A, C, B. Okay, so they're the 6 different ways of ordering A, B, and C out. Now, so that's they're the options. Which of them are equivalent? So if we don't care about, so as you can say, if we're only concerned about who sits next to who, or to whom, so get the grammar right. So if we only care about who sits next to whom, and not really where they sit at the table, just the adjacency around, then some of these things are equivalent. So in that top row, all of those are really equivalent. So you can see the left-hand side of B, Annabelle, on her left-hand side is always Brian, in all those situations. And on the right-hand side of Annabelle is always Chris, every single time. So if you only care about... There's no Pauls in this case, sorry. Oh.
This is going to be hard.
So the left-hand side of Annabelle and the right-hand side of Annabelle is the same in all those situations, exactly the same. So really that table arrangement is identical. And in the bottom case, the left-hand side of Annabelle is not Brian anymore, it's Chris, so it's a different arrangement in that sense.
Chris.
But it's Chris in all those cases, so the left-hand side of Annabelle is always the same. Now how do I do that? You can see they just spun around, so they're just rotations of each other. So I just spin it, you get the next arrangement each time. Now, and the other thing is that you can see they're mirror images of each other as well, but the mirror images I'm considering different in this case at least. So they're not. So in the first case, Brian is on the left-hand side, but on the second case is on the right-hand side. So we'll call that different. So I don't have to list all the options every single time. How do we do this? Well, because the table can spin around, there really is no first position anywhere, not at all. So how you count these things is I'm just going to say, I'm just going to pick someone to be the arbitrary reference point. Doesn't matter who it is. So I'll pick Annabelle. Annabelle can be my amazing person. I'm going to base everyone around Annabelle. Because she's got the easiest name to pick on, I don't know. That's probably the reason. So I could pick Annabelle. So that's she's logged in. And then we've got to choose everyone around her. So there's one place Annabelle goes, I'm going to choose the rest of them. So once we picked Annabelle, Then we're going to choose the next person. So Annabelle's up here. Then we've got 2 more positions on the table to pick. So the number of positions for the next one, there'll be 2 choices for that position, and we have 1 left for the very last one. So the number of ways of doing that would be just 2 factorial. So the 2 different options, as you can see listed here. So in general, so putting around a table, so putting n people around a table, the number of ways of doing that would be 1, so you just pick someone as a head of the arbitrary head of the circle, and then there's n minus ways for the next person, n minus 2 for the next one, so it ends up being n minus 1 factorial. That's just a simple way of doing it. So number of ways of people ordering in a line is n factorial. Number of ways of ordering in a circle is n minus 1 factorial. And again, that really include that assumes that anti-clockwise and clockwise are different. If you don't really care about that at all, just consider about who's next to who, but left and right, then it'll be that divided by 2 as well. So n minus 1 factorial. So who's seen that trick before? Circles?
I've seen a circle before.
I know small world. You would not believe what I told you.
I know of them.
Okay. Let's see if you guys can pull your calculators and see if you work out the answer to this question. A town's got 18,000 people in it. Everyone has 3 initials.
Whoa.
Okay. Is it true that every 2 people have different initials? Or can it possibly be true that everyone has different initials?
There's a few the same.
Okay, so someone reckons a few can be the same. 26. Do some calculations around a piece of paper and see that person's right or not.
No, actually, it only gets to 15,600 before there becomes overlap.
17,000.
By 26.
Times 26 times 26. So you have AAA, AAB, AAC.
17,000
Whose
times
name's
26.
going to be ZZZ?
I really thought sorry for the person who
It's all.
There will be some people.
Okay, so the consensus seems to be, yes, there are going to have to be some people that share initials with other people in the town. How did you prove it? What's your justification for it?
There's 3 initials, so it's I had it as 26 to the power of 3.
Okay, so why is it not 26? So why is it not 26p3? Why is it not that one?
I'm just going to point out that you're not out. You say that because
You have duplicates. Duplicates are the same.
Okay, so 26p3 assumes that all 3 initials are different. That's what the assumption is. But it's possible that someone has AAA, for example.
You can read more than 3 ways.
Yep. Does anyone in this room have initials that the same letters used more than once?
No.
How can you know that?
You know about yourself, I presume. I presume most people don't know everybody's initials in the room.
I know of people in this room.
So So I mean, it's certainly possible in real life. So that's wrong because that assumes that all the letters are different. So it's 26 to the power of 3, which was 17 and a bit thousand. I can't.
Yeah,
3.
So that's not quite 18,000.
So automatically.
So by the time any town bigger than that size are automatically going to have some duplicates cropping up.
They have initials.
You can have lots of duplicates. Everybody could have the same initials. That's possible.
That's triple A's.
So we don't. So we can work out the minimum number of duplicates if you wanted to. What's the minimum of duplicates?
404 times 2.
Hmm?
Oh, that's
So at first sense, you go 18,000 minus 7,576. Is that equal to?
424.
424. So at first sense, you think, oh yeah, that would be the number of people that would be duplicate. Is that right?
No, because then you've got like A, and you can reorder that as many times as you want.
Maybe like times 2 of that.
That's not how many people, that's how many pairs.
Because that's the number of pairs. That's right. So that's the number of that's the minimum number of pairs we have with the same. And so we need to multiply that by. So 42 by 2 is the number of people. Goes so number of pairs times by 2 gives the number of people. So the number of people, that would be the minimum number of people with duplicates would be twice that overlap essentially. So if you think about it, if you had a town of 17577 people in it, that last person has to have the same initials as someone else. But that means that they have a duplicate, but so does that other person they've been duplicated with. So it ends up with 2 people produced, right? Just the one extra. Same thing. So every one extra person means your stuff, but also someone else's as well. I don't know if it's bad to have the same initials as someone else. Not really that bad, is it? But the stuff just goes along. Okay, so you're a different to the whole rest of the town anyway.
Yeah. I'm unique.
Okay, so I've got lots of different examples and words on Okay, so I've got 10-bit words. I mentioned this the other day, but just reminding you, that means they're binary numbers, so 10-digit binary numbers. So each digit's either a 0 or 1. So you get these in computer science all the time. How many different possible 10-bit words are there?
2 to the 10.
Okay. So 2 to 10, what's that equal to as a number?
That's 1024.
Yep. So I encourage you to just remember that off the top of your head, which you might already have done so. It pops up often enough if you decide it's worth remembering. Meg.
Oh. Oops. Shit.
That's a kilo.
Kilo, yeah. Sorry.
Oh my god.
They're all about the same.
Jacob comes out of 12.
No, that's the factor. That's the factor every time.
You apply to them.
So, everyone okay with the 2 to the power of 10? So there's 10 digits, each have 2 options, so 2 to the power of 10. So that's the easy one. How many of them have 2 zeros and 8 ones? So it's less than 1,000, but how much less than 1,000, I guess? Well, I've got 10 digits. I want 8 of them to be 1. So I would think of it as being 10 digits. Let's choose 8 of them to be 1s. If I choose 8 to be 1s, the other 2 have to be 0, so I don't have to choose any more. No more choices required, so that's it. So really, it's just 10, choose 8. You could also do it as saying, I've got my 10 numbers. Let's just choose 2 of them to be 0. That's the same number. Gives you the same answer. So it's going to be a 45, is it?
Yeah.
So it's the same each way. Does that make sense to people? So how many of them have 10 ones? Same idea. You'd either be 10, choose 10, just choose all 10 of them to be the ones, If you're doing a calculator, you got how many? What do you reckon the answer's going to be?
One.
1. There's only one way of getting 10 ones. It's just the number of 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, etc. Okay, so how many of even parity? So what I mean by even parity is that the number of ones is even. That's what I mean by even parity. So we'll do it the long way and then we'll do it the short way. That way. We'll get a computer to help us out here for the. So, to get even parity, how many different ones do you need to have? Well, it's got to be an even number. That's really what it comes down to. So, what are possible numbers that we can have?
2, 4, 6, or 8.
So you have 0.
14.
0 is possible.
Is 0 even?
Yeah. So you got the 0, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 of the different possibilities. If you want to know what I'm doing in Excel, just ask. I'm happy to do that. I just type those on, I fill down, etc. If you don't care, that's fine. But so that's the different number of ones. How many choices are there each? So how many different strings will have no ones in them?
One.
Okay, so it's going to be 1. What formula are we using for this one, for example? So how many ways are getting 2 ones? Okay, so in Excel it's equals, you do combin, is how you do it, choose in Excel. So from 10, I would like to choose 0 of them, or whatever it might be. So 10 choose 0 is 1, as we worked out. And since I'm lazy, I'll get them to do all at the same time for me.
That's cool.
So this one here would be 10 choose 2, that's 10 choose 4, 10 choose 6, 10 choose 8, 10 choose 10. So they're all my different options. What I'm going to do with all those cases? Add them up. So in Excel, just go sum, give me the sum of all those, thank you, and gives the answer of.
Half of it. Whoa, that makes sense because it's even.
Okay, so that's the hard way, and then that looking at the answer might suggest maybe there's an easier way of doing it. Okay, so it's just the answer. It's just the total number divided by 2.
That really makes sense.
How does that work? Can you try to justify that? It seems to ring bells in people.
By doing that, that's how you pick it.
No, Fibonacci.
Okay, it's really about the check bit idea.
Because it's not even, it's odd. Therefore, half of it has to be even.
So you've got 9 digits at the front, right? How many different choices are there for the first 9 digits? In general, just in general.
2 to the 9.
So it's 2 to the 9, so the 2 to the 9 choices here. Then we have to choose the last digit. We want to choose it so that it's going to have an even parity. So if there are an even number of ones in the first 9 digits, what would you choose here? 0, that's right. If there was an odd number of ones in the first 9 digits, what would you choose for the last one?
Choose a 1.
You choose a 1. So at the last digit, you just choose to make sure the parity's even. So really, this last digit really is just a check bit. So just like we use check digits for the ISBNs, parity is the same sort of thing. So you can use parity. You just force the parity of all your words to be even. That means really that last bit really is just a check. Just to check that nothing's being corrupted. So this is a common trick when saying commonly. Well, you know, what size words do you normally have? What size?
Words usually 8 bits.
8 bits. So 8 bits more common. So you turn into 8 bit. So if an 8-bit word, you often just make that last 8th bit in the 8-bit word a parity. So you just force it to make sure the overall word has even parity. So it's really just a check bit. And you can just force it. And so that's really forced by the other 9 in this case, or the other 7 in for normal words. And so there really is just one choice for that check bit determined by the first 9 of them. So there's only one choice really to make sure there's definitely even parity. So you multiply the two together, you get to the 9. Now the other way is saying, well, half are going to be odd, half to be even. That's the answer.
It makes sense.
That's also acceptable. Which might be an even easier way of looking at it. But parity, as I said, is often used as a way of a really simple error detection system. So if everything you send over a network has got even parity, when you receive it, if some of them have odd parity, it says something's gone wrong, ask for it again. That's a very simple network protocol. Not a very sophisticated error detection code, but I mean, you could just, if that's sort of gone wrong in the packet, you can just ask the whole thing again, that sort of idea. Okay. So 512 was our answer. How many of them have at least 8 ones? We'll get our Excel to help us out again in a second, but let's just...
Is it 10C8 plus 10C9 plus 10C10?
Okay, so if you're going to have what at least means greater or equal to, that's the first thing. So greater or equal to 8. That's what it corresponds to. That's the first thing you have to remember. At least corresponds to greater or equal to. So as someone says, that means you either have 8 or 9 or 10. So that's how many ones we want. And like question 2, that means we're going to have, I want to choose 8 of them. That's one option. Or I want to pick 9 of them. That's another option. Or I want to pick all 10 of them to be 1. So they're my 3 different cases. Work them out separately, sum them up.
And you get 56.
Yes. And again, I could have Excel, but you're quicker still, so I'll just use you. That's fine. Is everyone okay with that? So really just breaking down the 3 different cases and adding them up. So the extra thing really to learn is that at least means greater or equal to. Let's save ourselves some time. Let's make this 7. Sorry, I changed my question on the top of the head. Let's work out how many of these words have at most 7 ones in them. What does it most correspond to in terms of maths?
Less than or equal to.
So we want less than or equal to 7. Now at first glance that would mean you have 0 or 1 or 2.
You just go
all that to 7.
other ones minus.
So that's a slow way. What's the quicker way, you're saying?
You feel like the one's higher than 7 minus.
Okay. So the easy way would be to consider all the numbers that are not at most 7. So the numbers not at most 7 are 8, 9 or 10, which we worked out a second ago. So this is equal to not 8, 9 and 10. So the number of ways then would be equal to, there's 1,024
Minus 56.
minus the 56 that are from the 8, 9 and 10.
You get 968.
Cheers. So that's using that complementary event idea, so that's using that opposite idea, but that's going to be easier than trying to work out 8 different combinations and adding them up. Definitely. Just doing a simple subtraction. Everyone okay with that? Now what about number 6 here? How many of these 10-bit words contain the substring? I can see it, really.
Well, you can just consider it as one big block, so...
Yep. So you got 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. So how many of these 10-bit words contain that as a substring? And you're about to say, sorry?
It's just 3 factorial, so just do 3. Because you can consider those one big block, so then there's 2 zeros, or two values on the outside, so, 10 choose 3 or something. So then you got...
Okay, so there's got to be 2 other things. So we'll come back. Any other ideas? I mean, you might be right. I'm not saying right or wrong yet. I'm letting other people think about it. So I'm just writing down different answers. People writing down.
So on the other side you have 1, 0, and then 1, 0, and then you can move 1 along.
Okay. So let's consider the options case, and we'll just see if it simplifies down to anything people do. So as you're saying, you could have this one big massive group. That's what it really is. It is one big massive group. At the end of the group, what can you have after it? Well, you've got to have 2 binary bits at the end of it. What could they be?
Well, it's 2 to the 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. So
Yeah. So it's 2 to the squared options, as you correctly say. That's right. So there's 2 different. So there are 4 different options there. Another choice would be you have this big group in the middle. 10 different ways of getting that particular arrangement. So again, 2 squared. And the last one, as you're correctly saying, is this one here. Many different ways of doing that. So 2 squared. Add them all up. There's 3 ways of doing it. It'd be a simple way of saying it. So that's equal to 3 times 2 squared, which is 12. So the reason why you can't go, there's one big group and 2 other ones. You know what these other 2 things are just yet. And so you've got to, you want to like say there's 3 different factorials of ways of ordering it. One big massive group and a 0 and 1, but they could be the same.
Going to say is,
Yep.
because you've got the 2 on the ends, you can go 3 factorial, and because each of those 2 different groups can have 2 options, just multiply it by 2, so 3 factorial times 2, and you get 12.
Does that work?
I don't know, that's
Yeah, it gives the right
I just
number.
looked at it and I was just like, well, it could work because it's the right number.
Factorial is 10.
Yeah. Times 2. Because each bit can have 2 values, 0 or 1.
I'll think about if that really is going to be generalisable in general.
I can't imagine it would be.
So the problem is here is, although you want to you just want to choose what you've got and order them. That's the approach. Which is fine. That really can work. The problem is in this case, the 2 other bits you might pick both might be 0, and therefore the order they have doesn't make a difference. Some that could be a 0 and a 1, and the order does make a difference then. And that's the little complexity that I'm not quite sure if it'll work in this case. But thinking it differently is great, of course. So that's that one. Let's do. What about this one here? So that's 9 ones. So how many different words have a substring with 9 ones in it? So someone's guessing 2. Any other guesses before we? So how I'll do it naively. This is my naive approach. I want to say this, and I'm going to do it the wrong way to begin with, and you can tell me why I've done it wrong. So the one option is to have the 9 ones at the beginning, and then a binary digit at the end. And there'd be 2 ways of doing that. That is correct. Another way would have a binary digit followed by your 9 ones. And again, there'd be 2 ways of doing that. And if you add them up, you get 4, which is wrong. Why is that wrong?
Binary can only be 1 or 0, so you've got 3 options.
Okay. The problem is you can only do numbers adding up like that if they're mutually exclusive. You can only do that if the 2 cases cannot coexist at all. But there is one number which matches both those patterns. Because it matches both patterns, I'm actually counting it twice. So the real option, so that's wrong. So the 2 and 2 are fine. The options are either the 0 on the end, 1 at the end, Well, that one. So they're the 3 cases. So this one in the middle here is being counted twice. So I'm really counting that one twice. So I could do it as 4. So it really is still 4, but I've got to subtract off all the times I've done extra counting. So how many times have I counted too many times? Well, I've counted that 10 different ones, 1 too many times. So I've subtracted off 1. So the answer really is 3. Now that's a more complicated example, definitely. All right? But at least you can see all the options, and so I hope I've convinced you that there really is only 3 cases there. So why didn't we have to do that trickery for this case here? Because the particular substring in the middle was a whole lot of zeros, a whole lot of ones. There's just all those cases were definitely mutually exclusive, just because of what the substring was. But if you make them all 1s, then that may not be guaranteed anymore. That big long lead of zeros forced it to be quite unique in there. So the last example, which we'll finish up with today,
What's new and smart?
is what was I going to go for? Okay, so let's do the substring of just 4 ones. So 8 ones, 8 ones. This is 8 ones. How many different ones of 8 can we do? This is annoying because it's just the worst of the last 2 cases really. So the naive approach would be it's just like this one, and going there's 3 different patterns we can have. The big block with the binary digits on either side, 3 different patterns. Each of the patterns would have 4 different options. So you think, oh, 4 times by 3 gives me 12 different answers. That doesn't work. Why doesn't that work?
Well, whenever the 2 of the unknowns are 1, you're just going to have 10 ones. So there's the first instance, second instance, and third instance where there's going to be 10 ones.
Okay. So there's going to be some numbers you're going to count more than once. So that's right. So let's just think through it. So well, there's more than that, but that's a good starting point. So there are 3 times 2 to the squared options to begin with, minus the overcounts. What things are we overcounting? So you've started 1 already, which is great. So that particular arrangement, with the 10 ones, we're going to count that too many times. So let's just write down the pattern. So the actual patterns we're going to consider. So they're the 3 different patterns we're going to consider. So, as David correctly said...
You just double up.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of being like that.
Oh. Thank you. Yeah, so that's better. Let's make them look a little bit more different at least. So this number here, how many times will that get counted? So it's going 1, 2 or 3 times. There's only 3 cases.
3 extra times.
So it's going to get 3 times. So how many extra times is it being counted? So it's counted 3. So how many overcounts have we got? So it's been 2 more times than we want it to be. So I've got to subtract off 2 for the 2 extra counts it's done. Can you think of any other number we've counted more than once?
There shouldn't be if you because in the middle one, if they're both 0 or 0, 1, the order's still, you can't mix up the order. They're still going to be exclusive numbers. So it should just be when we're all 1, shouldn't it?
So if you're getting 1s next to that big group of 1s, that's when you're going to start getting overcounts happening. So, as someone was saying, I mean, you as well, in this case here, if those 2 beats were 0s, not a problem, that's pretty unique. But if either of those are 1s, that's going to start being matching other patterns then. So, I guess, how could you go in general? We're looking at number of substrings containing 8 1s. The problem cases are the ones which contain 9 1s or 10 1s. They're the problem cases. They're the ones that are being counted lots of times. So we've got the one of 10. The other case is the substring of 9 string of 9 ones, which are the why did I get these from? That's what we did a second ago. So they are just there. So I've just written them again. So just anything which contains 9 or 10 ones in them in a row are the ones which we call double counting. Because they contain the substring of 8, but you can slide them back and forwards a bit, and that's where the problem is. Because you can slide them back and forwards, that's where the grouping is not very clear. So for this one here, the one with 9 ones with a 0 on the end.
I thought we were just counting how many different numbers we could make, not sets of 8. I've forgotten the initial question.
Okay. How many... I never showed it to you, so that might be the reason. How many different substrings of a 10-bit word contain 8 ones all in a row? That's the original question.
Okay, then. Yep. Alright.
So, at first, a naive approach would be 3 different ways of putting it, either beginning, middle, or end this big clump of things. 4 times the other characters, multiply together to give you 3 times 4 gives you 12. The problem with that approach is you're counting some things more than once. So the number with 10 ones in it, you're counting 3 times. As a matter of fact, it's problematic. The numbers with 9 ones, you're also overcounting. So this one here, which has 9 ones in it, you're going to be counting it, it's going to match
twice.
So that pattern and that pattern, it's going to match them twice. So that's going to be counted twice. And the other one with 9 ones in will also be counted twice for the same sort of reason, by symmetry. And so we've got to get rid of the overcounts. So since we counted them each twice, we will need to subtract them off. We're going to get rid of the overcounts. We counted each of them 1 too many times. And so the answer is 12 minus 4 effectively. So the answer is 8. There's not many. You could write them all down in this case, just to convince yourself that it really is actually 8. And I'll let you do that yourself if you want to. If you want to prove yourself that it really is 8, you could do it. So as you're packing up, what have we done today? So we've looked at many examples of counting techniques. So this is called combinatorics. So it's really using that idea of combinations, permutations, and rules of complementary events, multiplication rule, and the sum rule. So you can see that some of the tricks of this is that you really need to split up into separate cases at times, or be prepared to do that, and in each case multiply them out. But if you're splitting up into cases, as this last example shows, you need to make sure that cases are separate from each other. Fancy word is they need to be mutually exclusive. So most of the time, that's pretty easy to do. It's only really annoying cases that I can generate. So in your assignment, which is the next thing you're going to be doing about these for assessment purposes, I give you hints to look out for that at times. So